Hey, what's up guys, this is MugenLord here, and I'm back again with another video. So it appears that Square Enix is once again back in the spotlight of gaming media and gaming news, for the simple fact is that Square Enix has lost nearly $2 billion in market value since the release of Final Fantasy XVI. So what does this mean? I'll give you my opinion, but before we do that, make sure you hit that subscribe button, that notification bell for more gaming content here on this channel. So we're going to dive right into it because I think this is pretty interesting, and I also want to make this clear as we covered this article, which has been reported by VGC. I want to let you guys know that we have to remain as objective as possible because this game, Final Fantasy XVI, believe it or not, is probably one of the most controversial games besides a couple others in here in 2023 that really has the community and have game journalists jumping on this this whole, love or hate bandwagon when it comes to this title. So there's a lot of people who has, I guess you say, nefarious or have their own bias when reporting this news when it comes to anything involving Final Fantasy 16. And me personally, I'm gonna try to be as objective as possible to give you the point of view, to give you the perspective so you can decide whether or not Final Fantasy 16 is responsible for this because of how these articles are reporting the news surrounding this game and Square Enix altogether. So let us dive right into this. Now, this article is from, like I said, the VGC article, where we have Square Enix has lost nearly $2 billion in market value since Final Fantasy XVI's release, and employees in analysis express concerns about its development structure and quality control. Now, this is another thing that we're going to definitely talk about is, and I explained it actually in the video, it was called Square Enix Delusion, Pure Delusion. You can go check that out as well. And I think it has a lot to do also with their quality control and some of the business decisions that's been just mind-boggling that Square Enix and the upper, I guess you could say the upper echelon or the executives at the top has been making, for the company for almost over a decade now, So we're going to continue. So it says Square Enix stock has fallen 30% from its peak this year, wiping almost $2 billion off the company's market value. Jesus Christ. So it says the Japanese publisher's share price reached its highest point this year in the days running up to Final Fantasy XVI release in June. But it closed on Wednesday at the lowest level since May 2022. The slump comes from after the sales of the PS5 game reportedly failed to meet high end of the company's expectations. And this is another thing. As we go through this article, it's going to explain, because I've been hearing so many people on one side, celebrating this, especially when the console wars, especially now the Starfield is out. You have the Starfield side, the fanboys with Microsoft saying that, hey, look at your beloved Sony exclusive, which is Final Fantasy 16. It didn't deliver, and look at our game Starfield. But there's more to this because a lot of headlines is pointing at Final Fantasy 16, and I just want to be objective about this because I think there's a little bit misleading when it comes to the titles of these articles. And I think as we start to read, which is important to read these articles where they get down to the nitty gritty of what's really been going on and with Square Enix and their expectations for this title. So, but it also follows the disappointing performance of other big budget releases like 2020's live service flop Marvel Avengers, support for which will end this month, and Forspoken, which is another garbage game, but the debut game for Square Enix Luminous Production Studio, which launched to lackluster sales, according to the company. So in a Bloomberg article, analysts analyzing Square Enix's recent downturn, anonymous employees and contractors claimed that the company is suffering from issues with its game development structure and quality control, while analysts expressed concerns about its long-term prospects. So flooding the market with unfinished, bad and untested games is a bad move. Now, this is the thing. 2022, a lot of people may not agree with me, but I thought 2022, Square Enix had released a lot of different titles. I mean, these are like AA titles. Now, people argue and also said that, yeah, they can put these AA titles out here, but it doesn't necessarily mean that their quality are actually good. And a lot of them didn't really perform well. But for for me, in my personal opinion, I enjoyed those AA titles more than I enjoyed any big blockbuster AAA title that Square Enix had released recently or whatever. And those examples are Star Ocean, The Divine Force. I also enjoyed Dealfield Chronicles, and there's been reports that Dealfield Chronicles didn't do too well for the company. But I also did a review. You can go check it out to actually hear my opinion on it. But I enjoyed Dealfield. These were little games. These were little titles that were different than what Square Enix normally focus on, which is AAA titles. I miss those days when Square Enix used to put out titles that weren't a Final Fantasy game. They were their own titles, but they were really, really good, and they pretty much cultivated a fan base around them, and I missed those days. And 2022 kind of reminded me of that. They also released games like Harvestella that came out, which Square Enix gave me a free copy of that, and I have to put at least a preview up for you guys and talk about that and give you my opinions and my impressions on it at least, so you can expect that pretty soon. And then, of course, like I said, they put out Valkyrie Elysium, which to me, I think out of all those releases was the weakest release of 2022. And then you have Alive remake, and you had Trials of Mana the prior year. So they was just releasing a lot of mid titles that I really personally found enjoyment in. But of course, Octopath Traveler 2 didn't perform too well. So this is really hurting the company in terms of that, which we talked about the last video regarding Square Enix, to where they were saying that they maybe just starting to just do away with the mid titles and just focus back on AAA, which I don't think is a good idea. But as some of these employees say, I think quality control is more important than anything. Just have better quality. Give us better quality games. Test these games, and I think Square Enix would do perfectly fine. But let's move on. So let's see. So flooding the market with unfinished games, bad or untested games is a bad move. Tokyo-based developer and gamer Michael, I would just skip his name, referencing Marvel's Avengers, first spoken in the Dealfield Chronicle. The company has overstretched itself on too many titles without proper oversight. Now, I will say this. It was so many Square Enix titles last year that I'm like, wow, I have to finish these games before the next game came out. Because I believe it was it was September of last year. We had Valkyrie Elysium. And then October, we had Star Ocean, The Divine Force. That next month, they were just like back to back. And then during the summer, we had, I believe around like maybe July, we had Alive remake. They were all sandwiched together, and I think that's another problem that Square Enix really need to work out, sandwiching these games. And I think that also has a lot to do is because they want to get their financial statements to look really, really good. And that's the bad thing about business, man. Trying to please these executives and trying to have a good looking physical year to impress the board of directors and everything. And this was going on. That's why I believe that it was so cluttered, because they tried to fill in that physical year. So current and former Square Enix employees reportedly claim one of the causes of such issues is Square Enix's decision to give individual producers too much control over the scope and direction of the projects. They also said games have suffered from inadequate documentation and team structure. We remain concerned with the game company's development structure and quality control, which could limit the longer performance, said Capital Security of Japan analyst Yiji Zai. Earlier this month, Square Enix announced that a PC version of Final Fantasy 16 is in development. Oh, I didn't know that. In addition to 2 pieces of DLC content. I haven't been keeping up with that at all. But this is a trend that's been going on when it comes to Square Enix, and it's the decisions that they're making. And they have been making bad decisions since they ever became Square Enix, with the oversaturation of products. And even when they were Squaresoft, near the end of Squaresoft, they had this issue to where they were funding so many projects, mainly Final Fantasy. And when I was young, I didn't know this. After the success of Final Fantasy 7, they were already working on Final Fantasy 8, and then they were working on 9, 10, and 11 at the same time while producing the movie Spirits Within. They were spreading their products, like their products so thin They were working on so many projects at one time, and this way it caused them to go into a financial hurdle or financial troubles. And it also had pretty much delayed the acquisition or the merger of Enix as well, because of the financial situation that they had put themselves in. And apparently it seems like they're pretty much repeating the same thing again, which is considered insanity. You know, doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result, it's insanity. It's pure insanity. And it seems like Square Enix is just not letting it sink in. They're not letting their titles breathe. They're not giving them breathing room, because they're trying to meet these financial goals. And the thing is, they put so much responsibility, and this is why I said you have to watch out for these articles, because there's other articles that's pretty much blaming Final Fantasy 16 for this, but it's not really Final Fantasy 16. And that's why I said we have to be objective about this. Despite how I feel about 16, which I still don't like Final Fantasy 16, that they just went straight action, and it's pretty much not even an RPG at this point. It's more so an action game more than anything. But I still want to be objective about it, besides how I feel about it. And there's a lot of articles out there that's trying to put the responsibility on Final Fantasy 16, and that's definitely not the case. It's the fact is that Final Fantasy 16 had a bigger shoes to fill in because of the past failures that Square Enix has been producing, especially Avengers. Avengers cost them a lot of money. That was a big IP. They fumbled the ball, and this is an IP from Disney Marvel themselves, and they really blew it with that, you know? And then another game that they put a lot of money, a lot of campaigning into, was Forspoken. That was supposed to be the chosen child that a lot of fans were really like bolstering within the console wars and everything, and then that game happened to pretty much not meet expectation. I already thought the game was trash anyway, but it didn't meet expectations. And then of course, sadly, DioField Chronicles, which I wasn't expecting DioField Chronicles to make gangbusters, because it looked like the way it was designed, it felt and it looked like a mid, like AA title. So I wasn't really expecting that game to make blockbuster sales, but I at least expected it at least to perform at least fairly well, you know, to pretty much have a sequel, because that game, the way it ended, man, you can't leave me on a cliffhanger like that. And I hopefully that they give it another try and give us a sequel, because that's what I want. I want a sequel to DioField. I enjoy it. Like I said, I did a review on it. Go check it out. I really enjoyed that game. But I digress. And this is the issue that we have with Square Enix at this point. These guys are not listening, and like I said before, when you had one CEO wanted to push NFTs, which is stupid, and they kept trying to double down and crack down on NFTs, and it just won't work. It won't work at all. No one wants this, so there has to be some restructuring going on, because there's a lot of things decisions that Square Enix is making is just nonsensical, and it's really hurting the company, and they really have to start planning out their game plan when it comes to their games, because they also have another game which is like free to play. It's like a soap game that's kind of remind me of Splatoon, but it's their version of Splatoon that utilizes foam and soap. Can't remember the name on the top of my head. I'll probably have the name correction at the bottom or something like that. So they're trying all these different games. They're following trends. And Square Enix admitted to it, that they're following trends, and that is a bad thing. Stay away from trends. Be Square Enix. Be unique. Do your own thing. Be Square Enix, because other franchises or other companies always see you guys back in the day as an example of how to follow. You always used to lead when it came to JRPG experiences, and now you're just trying anything and just trying to chase trends, and it's just not working out for you guys. There needs to be some kind of shakeup. There needs to be some kind of quality control within the company, because right now all they have right now that's holding these guys together, besides Dragon Quest and Final Fantasy, well, mainly Final Fantasy 14. Final Fantasy 14 is holding them. Yoshi P and his team with Final Fantasy 14 is holding Square Enix all on their backs right now. Holding them. They holding down everything at this point, you know? And then now you have Final Fantasy 7 Remake, which is another reason why they're trying to milk the hell out of this. You check out my other video with my concerns with Ever Crisis and everything of the sort around that. They're using that Final Fantasy 7 Remake to try to generate revenue to keep these guys afloat. Like, this can't be the only form of strategy in order to keep your company alive. They have to figure something out. But that's pretty much my overall opinions, my overall thoughts on this video. Definitely your thoughts in the comment sections below. What do you think, and what strategies would you suggest Square Enix should do in order for them to pretty much produce quality games and to make them into the company that they used to be, that created great quality games? Seeing the Square Enix or name meant quality. Like, I definitely hear your thoughts. What strategies they could possibly use. So if you like the video, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and also hit the notification bell for more gaming content here on this channel. This is MugenLord signing off. I'll see you game fiends later. Peace out.